The scripture that we've been listening to today points towards the return of Jesus, the day of the Lord, which St. Paul says comes like a thief in the night. And we're hearing about these sort of texts to do with the day of the Lord, the end when the Lord returns, because we're coming to the end of ordinary time. Next week will be the last Sunday of ordinary time, and we celebrate the coming of Christ the King, his coming. And Jesus Christ is the master who gives his servants these talents, this amount of money, and he's the one who comes back after a long time. So he's given these servants talents, money, and he doesn't say what they're to do with it. He just entrusts it to them, and they, according to their gifts. So 1 5, 1 2, 1 1, and we hear that the one with 5 makes 5 more, 2 makes 2 more. The one hides it. He hides it. It's obvious that the servants know what their master wants of them. We can hear that because of the response of the one who had one. I know, what's he saying? He says, I knew that you reap where you have not sown and gather where you have not scattered. And I was afraid. The others knew that too. And they were quite willing to go ahead and make the money, to use that money, the gifts that God had given them, the talents. And the amount he gives actually is completely and utterly beyond imagining. It's extraordinary what the master gives these servants. A talent isn't like £5 or £100. A talent is about 15 or 20 years worth of salary. So middle management in Aberdeen, if you're in middle management in an oil company here, you're talking about millions of pounds. And these people have been given a vast sum of money, entrusted with a vast sum of money, which they make use of, which they put to work. And it's not their money for themselves, but it's the master's money. And they put it to work for him. The one who has one. We've got to wonder, what's going on there? Has he not understood the master? Well, it's clear that he has understood him, because the other two are trading the money and making stuff with it, and he's not. And we can probably interpret this in a couple of ways. One way is he sees the other two being given lots more than him. He's getting 5. He's getting 2. What will I get? And he gets only 1. And it could be that he's thinking, what? I'm only being given 1 while they've been given 2 and 5? That's not fair. Well, I'll be damned if I'm going to start making money like they are. He's not going to get much more back from me. And there's a sense of, I've been given little, so there's no way what little I have, I'm going to give back to you. And he hides it. He's not willing to serve the master. And in fact, when the master comes back, he says, I was afraid. But this guy is actually being very bold before the master and saying, it's all your fault that I'm not making the money, because you're the one who's hard. You're the one who reaps where he doesn't sow. You're the one. It's all your fault that I'm not making the money. And he blames the master for his laziness, for his inaction. And sometimes we can do that too. Those talents that he gives, we can rightly translate that into the gifts the abilities that God has given us. And the fact that we use the word talent to speak about gifts and abilities comes from this very gospel, this very parable. And we can often think, well, I haven't got much, I'm not very good at that and the other, and therefore I won't do anything with this because I haven't been given much. I'm not like him. I remember many years ago, there was a priest called Father Eddie Traynor. Father Eddie used to be up in Bucky. Father Eddie was an extraordinary character. And I remember speaking to him about, I can't remember what it was we were speaking about. We were speaking about something. And he was giving me advice. And he said, well, why don't you do this, that, and the other? And I thought, what? And he was explaining it as if it was the most simple thing in the world. And for me, it was like complex, bold, and beyond my abilities. He was the man with 5 talents. I had maybe 1 or 2 if I was lucky. And he was just saying, why don't you do this? And I was thinking, I'm not capable of doing what you're doing, because you're somebody completely extraordinary. And he was extraordinary. We do what we can with what we've got. Why was I telling you that? So we can make excuses. I haven't got these gifts and abilities, therefore I won't act at all. Other times, it might be the case that we won't act out of fear. And somebody was telling me this recently. Fear because, well, if I don't do it perfectly, it's got to be, if I'm going to do it, it's got to be done just right. And if I can't do it just right, well, I don't think I really want to do it. My problem is, I won't do it because I'm afraid of what other people will think. If I do this, if I use this talent, then somebody might say this, or somebody might do this, and they'll react really badly, and then I'll be unhappy, or they'll be unhappy, and I don't want that to happen. And therefore, we hide our talent. We don't do what we should be doing. What is this talent, and how should we be using it, is the question. The first reading gives us an indication. We've talked about gifts and abilities, and the Master has said, you've been trusted with little things, you shall be entrusted with great. We are listening to this in the context of God's return. Jesus is coming back. What should we be doing while we're waiting for his return? He has entrusted to us something immense. And he wishes us to use what he has given us. If you can be trusted with little things, you will be entrusted with great. And what is the little things that we've been entrusted with? The little things that we've been entrusted with are the daily things of life. Family, home, work, these things. And this woman here, the perfect wife, what is it that makes her perfect? Is it her charm? Is it her beauty? No. Charm is deceitful, beauty empty. What is important with her, with a perfect wife, is what she does and how she does it. She is active, gains profit for her husband, for her family. She uses what she has and puts it to good effect. And it's not with the big things, it's the daily things in life. So for us, it's loving my neighbor today. Making that time for God today in the silence of the day in my neighbor. Serving, using my gifts and talents for the church. The gift that he's given us is God's grace. St. Paul himself said that he's been entrusted with the grace of God that has been meant for you. And you too, each of us has been entrusted with grace that is meant for other people, not for ourselves. The gifts that God gives us are not meant for ourselves because they're not our gifts. And so the question is, what are we doing with God, what God has given us? What are you doing with what God has given you? Are you putting his gifts to work? Are you using it for others? Are you using it to build up the church? Is your gift warming the seat? That's my gift to the church. We don't have to have great gifts to serve. Anybody can sweep the floor and help clean the church. That's the most basic thing any of us could do. But all of us are capable of doing more than that. God has given you gifts for others, and the gift he's given you is not small. It is not small. It is beyond anything that we can imagine, because that gift is Jesus Christ himself.